to see 50 billion Internet things. Already they have the capacity to take down the Internet. Last week you might have seen some outages, and that was mainly due to weak security on existing devices. Rem Koolhaas brings up the point that architecture is being colonized by the technology sector, and we need to respond to that. So I'm proposing IoT as a mode of interaction and as a way to take back power to the architect. Currently, you see technology companies such as Google with the acquisition of Nest and their new product, Google Home, coming into the market and coming into your house. They have the capacity to know when you're home, change the temperature, listen in, provide feedback, and attach hundreds and hundreds of companies onto their API system. Apple has a similar interface, mainly bringing the developers, both software developers and home developers, to kind of take in and adapt HomeKit as their integrated universal interaction with IoT sensors. And these are just some of the devices that they currently have. SaaS is the idea that you don't really own software, you license access to it. And similar, as we get to more SaaS technologies, we see things like Uber and Spotify having their services and then integrating their services so you can listen to Spotify while you're on your Uber. A lot of IoT implementation in the build fabric has been through built-in maintenance, and this is largely to reduce labor costs and to increase security protocols. And this essentially exists in building automation, but it's not really taken in an architectural perspective, more in terms of site management. Ken Larson brings up the proposal of a robo-wall, which basically allows the transition of space on a dime. So this is him interacting with an iPad, and you can easily modulate spatial configurations based on what you want that space to provide. And this is the execution through gesture-enabled controls that he's pulling out his bag, and there's a dining room configuration that can seat 8, and the room basically modulates based on the desires of how you want to use that space and how much space you want devoted to each utility. The notion of smart houses has a history dating back to controllable houses and projects such as the Tron House in Japan. And these are largely different taxonomies of what the degree of automation, reactionary configurations into which smart houses have been already considered. Ken Larson is currently working with House 10. Lastly, I want to bring up also the idea that building is a modular gadget. We can't forget that IoT devices typically only last about 5 years, and the structure can last over 100 years. And we have to take that into account as we're building these spaces. Carlo Ratti from MIT proposed an idea where you basically detect humans in space and then locally heat them to reduce the need of universal room modification, thermal modification. So you're basically using a Kinect sensor to detect people. Also, here's a resident chamber Calvin that basically reacts to how many people are within the room and creating a different sensory environment by collapsing and expanding this movable device. Also at U of T, we have the Internet of Moss, so we see the ceiling as an unused, undisturbed medium that can augment space and also change the environment in terms of humidity, in terms of temperature, and also to bring green within the space. I also want to bring up the idea of co-living. So PLT proposed the Stratford Collective, which has 223 units. Their average size is about 150 square feet, and they have a lot of common amenities. Aside from your gym, you have a lot of other communal facilities. My current site that I'm looking at is Hampton and Richards at 1111 Richards Street, and this is a site that currently a 35-story tower is being proposed, and I'm looking at seeing that site as a mode of intervention to see how IoT devices can change residential housing configurations. So this is the proposed GBL, Rennie, and Dreadville project. I'm looking into kind of the spatial configurations that they've proposed and trying to augment my own perception of what should be there as a series of IoT devices taking on that program. So in terms of efficiency, they have a 12% floor and circulation space with 17% of the floor plate dedicated to services, so kitchens, washrooms, laundry. And in terms of real estate, this floor plate is worth $11.5 million. So you can see the compartmentalization of units just hanging this per floor, ranging from 1.5 million to like $500,000 for a studio. And these are 2016 May figures. And lastly, my point of intervention is basically taking out the partition walls, leaving intact the structural members, and kind of creating co-living spaces within the proposed building. Lastly, I want to leave you with a quote: "Home is where the Wi-Fi is," which is Jack Sal. And this kind of takes on the question of we are having less and less access to space, and our personal devices are getting smaller and more digital. So I hope housing is kind of the next phase as a point of intervention.